Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Juggling Balls YouTube channel. I'm your host, Stuart, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not Andy Murray can rise to the top of the men's rankings, or if he is going to be struggling in his current position. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you do enjoy the video, and let me know in the comments where you think Andy Murray can get to in his recent stage of his comeback. So, as I said before, we're going to be taking a look at why I think Andy Murray can make it back to the top of the tennis ladder. Now, let's just have a quick look at the recent history of Murray's tennis career. For the past few years for him, it's been nothing short of a roller coaster. We've had the first sort of flare up with his hip at the French Open when he went out to Wawrinka in the quarterfinals. Was it the quarterfinals or the semi-finals? I think it might have been semi-finals actually. And then he had his Wimbledon's quarterfinal exit against Sam Querrey. Then there's been as many attempts at trying to come back through this hip injury. He held off the surgery for as long as he could, but then eventually he had the emotional Australian Open conference where he talked about the issues he was having with his hip, and that potentially having the surgery could mean the end of his career. And at that current moment in time, he was in so much pain that he didn't know if he could keep playing and really do much around the house or live a normal life with the pain that he had. He then went out in the next couple of days and then had the absolute stunner of a 5-setter against Bautista Agut, where he came from 2 sets down and took it to a fifth set whilst barely being able to walk on both his legs. Then after that was the surgery, and then there was the many questions that came out of it as to whether or not he'd be able to actually, do anything normal, never mind play tennis again. And then a few short months after that, he made his doubles comeback at Queen's with Feliciano Lopez, and not only competed, but he won the actual tournament. And let's not forget, Lopez won both the singles and the doubles that week, which in itself is a remarkable achievement. But the man he was playing with had a metal hip, so come on, who knew what was going to happen there? He then went on later on in the year, after playing a few more tournaments, and actually won the Antwerp tournament against Wawrinka in the final on a metal hip. After that, he went to the Davis Cup. He then had more pelvic issues, mainly to do with bruising and things like that. And then, obviously, the past year it's been up and down because of the whole COVID situation. He did play in a few hard court tournaments, and then went off for the winter and did his training camp and was getting geared up to play in the Aussie Open. And then, unfortunately, about 10 days beforehand, he actually contracted COVID, which meant that he wasn't able to actually go and compete in the Aussie Open this year, which he admitted had more of an emotional impact on him because he put so much hard work into that winter training. I mean, the man has really been through it all these past few years, and most men would really have given up, but not Andy Murray. Why is it that I think he can come back to higher rankings? I mean, just look at his career. He's Andy Murray, that's why. Let's not forget what he's already come through. He had the joint record for the most Grand Slam finals losses, and then had to overcome the three titans of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. He lost his home slam final against Federer, which would have spent more spiraling down the rankings or taking some time off, but that's not the character Murray is. So strong is his belief that he belonged at the top of tennis and that he belonged in that Grand Slam level that he came back the next month at his home Olympics on the exact same court and demolished Federer and Djokovic. And then the next month, he just goes and wins the US Open in a five-setter Federer and Djokovic in the final. This man does not know the meaning of giving up. He's been written off so many times, the press have slaughtered him, that even his own fans at times have doubted him, which they really shouldn't have. But despite everything that's been thrown at him, including the kitchen sink, he's never given in. Now, people like to say his performances really in the past couple of weeks haven't been that great. Against Hassan Gerasimov, I think I've got that right. I'm sorry if I've butchered that. No, they haven't been the greatest. But when you consider how on and off it's been the past couple of years for him, would anyone really expect him to play anywhere near the level when he was at his pomp in 2013 and 2016 and 2017 when he was at number one? I don't think that's possible. Right now, that man needs more time on the court. We've seen what he can do when he's got his rhythm back. Last year, when he was in the run-up to the US Open, he beat Zverev. Let's not forget Zverev is easily a top 10 player who has reached Grand Slam finals and is starting to push for those latter stages consistently, who's been week in, week out on the court, and really, probably, in the situation when he was facing Murray, should have put him to bed. The only thing at this point I think that can hold Murray back, which is obviously the clear red signal for everybody, is how far the metal hip allows him to go. Now, we all know one of the Bryan twins had to have the same surgery, and he was a big consultant to Murray on how it works and how he felt afterwards in comparison to how he was at the start of his career before he had the surgery. And the Bryan brothers returned to the top of the rankings and eventually went on to retire in a more than happy way after competing back to his usual self. Now, what's not known about this metal hip surgery is whether or not a singles player can put almost probably double the load onto it and still be able to compete at the level that he wants to compete at. Now, so far Murray has shown he's able to compete. It's now whether or not he can add that extra 10-20% to get back to that level. Now, I generally believe that Murray can get back up there. He's not going to be 100% the player he was. I would never expect that. But if he can get to 70-80% the player he was, he could easily be in the top 20. Now, with me saying that, let's take a look at some of the guys who are in the top 20. We've got Berrettini at 10. We've got Shapovalov, Monfils, the guy who beat him in 5 sets, Bautista Agut. All these names that we've seen in and around the top 20 consistently for the past 5, 6, 7 years. You've got Stan Wawrinka. He came back from 2 knee surgeries, and he's back in the top 20 now after climbing his way back up. You've then got the likes of Coric, John Isner, who's a mainstay really of the top 30s. People like that. Benoit Paire is still in the top 30. If you're telling me that Andy Murray can't get past these guys and can't get back into that top 20, unless his injuries obviously start to pile up again and he just needs to call it quits, I fully believe that Andy Murray can get back in that top 20 and start. Not necessarily. I think Grand Slams are a stretch too far. I think he could easily get into the second weeks of Grand Slams though. I think that, especially at Wimbledon, he can play that tournament with his eyes closed at this point. Obviously, if he comes up against Djokovic or Federer, then it might be a bit different. But again, you're not seeing them till the last stages. Well, we'll see this year, depending on how his rankings go, because that could all change. But my main point is that he's come this far to just play tennis again. He's got the mentality to go as far as he needs to get back to the top of his competition. When he was losing these Grand Slam finals, he didn't know what the missing ingredient was. He tried everything and get everybody's help to get him back to where he was, till he met Lendl, and Lendl was the guy that got him back to that point. Murray has tried everything. He's tried different therapies on his hip. He's tried everything. The last thing he could try was the metal hip, and no one knew how that was going to come out. He seems to have come out of it relatively okay. He's had some bumps in the road when he's come back, but I generally believe that his skill will come back to him once he gets his legs back and is playing week in, week out on the tour level. He's probably not going to be playing as many tournaments, but he probably doesn't need to. He probably just needs to play 2 or 3 tournaments, maybe in the space of 6 weeks, to keep himself fresh and keep himself going. And he's not going to be at the level of Federer, who plays a couple of tournaments in between slams now, because he's at that age where if he plays anything more than that, it's really overkill, and his body's probably going to deteriorate under him quicker than he wants it to when he's got Novak and Rafa breathing down his neck for the title of most slams. But that isn't what it's about for Murray. For Murray, it's all about competing, and as long as he's competing and he feels he can compete, he'll be on that court. And as long as his hip holds up, I think we've got at least another couple of years on him. He may call it quits earlier than that if he becomes more satisfied with the fact that he's come back, which is absolutely fair enough. But it's like he said in his press conference the other day, people have been writing him off and saying he should retire, he shouldn't put himself at risk, he's clearly not at the level he is at anymore. But he still feels that he's earned that right, and he rightly has earned that right, to be able to keep going and try his best to get back to where he was, and I think he will do. So, with that being said, and those obviously are my opinions, let me know what you think in the comments as to where you think he can get. Do you think he can win more tournaments? Do you think he's going to be stuck where he is and he's going to be floating around in like the high tens, or he's going to be in the 100 level? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've been Stuart from Juggling Balls, and I'll see you in the next one.